Over the last few years, the automotive landscape has truly changed. I mean, just look back 10 years ago at the Korean brands. Back then, they were constantly just chasing their Japanese, German, and American rivals. And today, they've brought me out to this wonderful motorsports park called Club Motorsports, just outside of New Hampshire, to test out this vehicle. This is the company's new 2019 G70, a compact luxury sports sedan designed to go head-to-head with vehicles like the BMW 3 Series and Mercedes-Benz C-Class. So, just looking at it, you can see it's a gorgeous car. However, have they truly delivered a car that can challenge the best from Germany? That's what we're here to find out. So as you can see, the design of the G70 is definitely a handsome car, especially when you first look at it at a glance. Now be sure to also click the link in the below if you haven't seen my review of the G70 with the 4-cylinder and 6-speed manual. But for this video, we're going to focus primarily on the 3.3T, the twin turbo V6 in the sport trim. This is the top of the stack right now for G70 trims. And you can see this particular one in this gorgeous shade of blue really just helps this car stand out. It really pops. And honestly, I think it might be one of the best looking sedans in this segment in terms of the compact luxury sports sedans. Now, being that this is the sport trim, you have a couple of unique styling elements. First of all, you have a new front fascia that's kind of new to the Genesis brand. You've got these full LED headlights that are standard. You have the four LED accents that go for the daytime running light. You have an LED turn signal, which is down here. No actual fog lights, but you're seeing lots of air scoops and whatnot here. This is actually to create an air curtain that goes over the rear, the front wheels to kind of aid with aerodynamics. The grille, this is their 6-point signature grille, finished off in this black chrome with kind of the mesh finish. You have copper accents here and there to show that this is the sport trim that I've shown you guys before on the G80 Sport. And overall, I mean, just look at this car. There are definitely times where I just find myself staring at it because it's an incredibly good-looking car. And as you guys know, this rides on the Kia Stinger platform. It's shorter and lighter and a little bit more stiff versus the Stinger. And this one, being the sport trim, comes with these 19-inch wheels. These are actually my favorite wheels that you get on the G70 currently. Brembo brakes are going to be included as standard on the V6 models. These are wrapped in 225s in the front, 255s in the rear, wearing Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, the best tires on the market. Now, compared to a Kia Stinger, its wheelbase has been shortened by about 3 inches. At 111 inches long, it matches the overall length or the wheelbase of a Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Its overall length has also been chopped by about 6 inches at 184 inches long. Again, the same size as a Mercedes-Benz C-Class, a little bit shorter than an A4 and a little bit longer than a BMW 3 Series. Now you can also see that panoramic sunroof, or it's kind of like a half panel sunroof, is standard on this particular one. It's going to be standard on the Elite trims and up. This car is available in 5 trims, as I said before. It definitely makes the car stand out. I love that kind of black look to the roof when you guys get the sunroof option. Now, at the rear, you can see this particular one, being the 3.3T, is also all-wheel drive. You have the H-Track badge to show it as the all-wheel drive model. And I think the rear is equally handsome. You have kind of an LED combination rear end with the taillights. They're LEDs for the brake lights. However, the turn signals and the reverse lights are an incandescent bulb. You have your backup camera over here. And then the V6 models give you a dual outlet exhaust, which is kind of integrated into the rear bumper, kind of similar to the Stinger, although the Stinger gives you a quad outlet exhaust. Now, this is a traditional sedan, unlike the Stinger, like most of its competition, however, and the trunk capacity is definitely decent. It's a lot smaller than what you're going to get in the Stinger. This is measuring around 10.5 cubic feet of space. It's also a little bit on the shallow end, so a lot of competitors give you like 2 cubic feet more, so this is a little bit of a smaller trunk. Underneath here, you do get a temporary spare tire. The Sport with the manual transmission did not have a spare. However, Genesis says that they give you the spare on all the other trims. The seats also fold down 60/40, which is definitely a plus. So just like the 4-cylinder I showed you guys, the V6 comes with the smart key access system with push button start as standard. Here's the current Genesis key fob. It's a pretty nice sturdy filling key, just a little bit large. It works like every other system, just keep the key fob in your pocket. Approach the vehicle, you can see the V6 has kind of like a dark chrome finish on the door handles. If you want to lock the door, just push the lock button here. The mirrors also electrically fold in, which is nice. To unlock it, no sensor on the back of the handle, just touch the button here. and then open the door. You can see here, the interior of the V6 is unique, especially with this sport trim version. This black interior is standard, and then you can take your pick between a red stitching for the seats or a gray stitching for the seats, which look fantastic. This is the premium Napa leather. They're heated and cooled. The seats are also 14-way adjustable, which is nice, and you have the red stitching kind of carried over throughout. It's a pretty gorgeous looking interior. I typically don't like a black interior, but this to me is something that I would definitely go for. Now, stepping inside, it feels nice and low when you step in. This is definitely the lowest feeling sedan Genesis has made. And then when you shut the door, it sounds nice and solid. I wouldn't expect anything less. Now, as you guys saw, it's got a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel. That's typically not, in this type of class of vehicle, especially at this price point. But to start the vehicle up, just put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire it up. And you can see here the gauges haven't changed. They're pretty much the same. And this is the 3.3 liter twin turbo V6. We'll go into the test drive later on. This is the same V6 that we've seen in other Hyundai and Kia products. We've seen this engine in the Stinger. And the rest of this interior you can see here, I really like a lot of the details they put in. It's got the red stitching, which is nice. It's got the real aluminum. You have the same kind of tablet style 8-inch touchscreen display here, which is nice. You have the stitching that kind of carries over through here. It's all really nice. It's real stitching. There's some faux stitching on the upper dashboard where it's soft touch. Over on the door panel here, it's kind of carried over through here. There's stitching, or it's soft touch. There's more of that diamond quilted stitching, which is different from the 4-cylinder Sport. And then the windows, they're trimmed in aluminum. They're one touch for all four. And then you have the power folding mirrors, which is definitely nice that you get on this particular trim. Down here, it's all hard touch plastic, which is what I expected. Now the steering wheel, it's not really any different. You have really soft leather. The wheel itself is heated, which is nice. You have paddles on the wheel to control the 8-speed automatic. You guys saw it's got that power tilt and telescoping function. Now the gauges here, you can see you can show all different kinds of gauge displays, which is nice. Push some buttons on the steering wheel here. You can change what you'd like to show. You can adjust the head-up display, which this one has, that you get on the Prestige models and up. The Sport also comes standard with it. The head unit here, you can see here, it's pretty much the standard stuff. This is the home screen. This is the Hyundai Kia head unit. It's not called Blue Link, of course. This is the Genesis brand, so they use something different. This is the embedded nav that the 4-cylinder I showed you didn't have. You can see here, it's basically what you expect from the Hyundai and Kia navigation system. I kind of wish that Genesis gave this its own unique head unit, but this is kind of where you see a little bit of Hyundai influence. The rest of this interior, however, aside from maybe just the font of the gauges and some of the switchgear pieces that remind you of Hyundai, everything else is very, very unique to Genesis, and that's really a great thing. Down here you have all your different buttons here. You have your radio buttons here, tuning, volume. You have dual zone climate control with your cooled seats, your heated steering wheel button. Down here you have a wireless charging pad, which is included on the top trims and up. You have a USB port. This car does come with Android Auto and CarPlay when you plug in the USB. Down here, this controls your 8-speed automatic transmission. It's just very similar to the Stinger. It's an electronic shifter. Pull back to go into drive, push forward while pushing that button to go into reverse. You can see it gives you a 360 camera because we have this top trim, which is definitely great. You have parking sensors as well, front and rear, which is great. I mean, the camera quality is fine. It's nothing super special, but it definitely gets the job done. A few more buttons here. You can turn on the rear view cameras, the 4 cameras. The drive mode selector, again, is over here, which is different than what I showed you in the manual transmission. This also gives you an extra smart mode. Cup holders are right there. The center console here, you can see, is different. You have another USB charging outlet. It's a good size. It's nice and padded leather. I love the fact that Genesis gives you this ability to move the seat forward and back from right here. I think a lot of manufacturers should do that. You typically don't find it in this segment, which is great. Above you, you can see standard moonroof, which is kind of in between a panoramic and standard size moonroof. You have some nice Alcantara on the headliner. I mean, overall, the interior still feels really roomy. Love the quilted leather, love the heated and cooled, love the red stitching. This interior, to me, is one of the best in the class, and it's the most easiest to use in the class with a lot of standard tech features. So that's definitely a strong feature with the G70. So because this vehicle is 6 inches shorter than the Stinger, the back seat definitely takes a hit, just like the 4-cylinder that I showed you guys in my other video. And when you get back here, the The V6 is pretty much equally tight. Now, one thing I really like is the panoramic sunroof, or the half panel sunroof, does add some nice light. It goes well with the black interior, and you can see the red stitching is kind of carried out. Now, this is kind of where I left the front seat. I moved it up a little bit, so it's a little bit closer up versus where the driver's seat is, which is where I headed to drive. There's decent legroom here, just like the 4-cylinder. I mean, it's a little tough to cross your legs because you kind of have to move it around the seat back, and then there's a pretty big hump here to allow the drive shaft, because this is a rear-wheel drive model. Now, you can see here, folding this down, you still have an armrest with cup holders. There's a USB port in here, but unlike the 4-cylinder, you have rear seat vents, which is nice, and then you have 3-level heated seats back here, which is also a really nice addition. There's LED lighting throughout, and then there's a nice suede Alcantara headliner over here. But overall, the back seat is definitely tight for 2 people. I definitely wouldn't want to do 3, but just remember that Genesis offers a bigger sedan if you guys need more space. So in my last video, the G70, I showed you guys the 2-liter 4-cylinder. That was a good motor. However, this is the motor that you want if you guys are truly looking for the ultimate G70. This is the company's 3.3-liter twin turbocharged gasoline direct injection V6. We know this motor, and we love this motor in the Kia Stinger and the Genesis G80 and G90. Now in this application, it still makes 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. That makes it basically nearly as the most powerful in the segment. Really only the Infiniti Q50 Red Sport or the Mercedes AMG C43 has more power than this. Now, G70s are standard with rear-wheel drive, which also give you a limited slip differential. This one is all-wheel drive that still includes the limited slip diff. Genesis says the all-wheel drive system can appropriate the power to the front wheels or more to the rear wheels to kind of preserve that rear drive dynamic. Now, the V6 models only come with an 8-speed automatic transmission. They're a Genesis design, and the fuel economy, it's definitely behind the class. It's rated at 18 in the city, 25 on the highway for this all-wheel drive model. It goes up to 26 on the highway if you guys go for the rear-wheel drive model. This one, as it sits, weighs close to 4,000 pounds, around 3,900 pounds. It's 100 pounds less than the Stinger, but I'm sure you guys have been very excited to see how this one drives. Let's get out on the road and see how it performs, shall we? So the moment you guys have been waiting for, I'm in the 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6 with all-wheel drive, which is probably a combination that a lot of people are going to buy. A lot of people who buy these tend to want the all-wheel drive model because you live in foul weather states. So with 365 horsepower and 8-speed auto, Genesis says this will go to 0 to 60 in like 4.5 seconds. Let's see if that's really the case. So I tried the launch control there, which is really easy to activate. Just like the Kia Stinger, just turn all the nannies off, put it in sport mode, left foot on the brake, floor the gas at the same time, and then it says launch active, and then bam, you're off. Now, 0 to 60, they said, as I said before, 4.5 seconds. It definitely feels like that. It feels very comparable to the last Stinger GT that I drove, which is honestly very quick. This feels maybe a smidge quicker. I really wouldn't know unless I put the two side by side and did a drag race, but yeah, the overall experience with the V6 is definitely much more exciting versus the 4-cylinder. I mean, usually I'm a manual guy. I love manual transmissions, but the manual and the 4-cylinder, it was definitely tuned more for comfort. It just didn't have the feel with the shifter, with the clutch, and the kind of throttle response I was looking for with the manual. But with the automatic here, when you have it in sport mode and you floor it, it's quick to downshift. It just kind of quickly drops down a gear. It has nice firm shifts, and then the pull. This thing has so much torque, it easily feels like it could keep up with things like a Q50 Red Sport, a BMW 340i, or the Audi S4, which is definitely, pretty high benchmarks. Now, when you start kind of driving the Genesis in a more comfortable manner, I'm going to put the drive mode here into comfort. This one that I'm driving has the adaptive variable suspension, which basically means in addition to adjusting the steering feel and the throttle response, this one will actually adjust the dampings in the suspension. So when you put it into comfort, the ride kind of settles down. And I definitely find that the ride is pretty comfortable in this particular setup. I mean, put it in comfort, you can kind of daily drive this car easily and not have to worry about, looking for, roads that are a little bit more smooth. I mean, this car can handle it all, and it's just a really refined car that I think should please a lot of enthusiasts. But the beauty about a sports sedan is they really start to wake up when you find a curvy road, and the G70 is definitely no exception. Oh God, this thing is seriously quick. I am impressed with the throttle response. Now, the steering of this car also is a high point. It is electric power assist, which is the norm. It's pretty quick, responsive. The feel is a little bit on the numb side, but when you have it in sport mode, the heft gets better or it gets stiffer, and you kind of it gives you a lot of confidence. Now, when you're driving this car, it does feel smaller than the Kia Stinger on which it's based, but not really that much smaller. The car kind of feels German, it feels planted, it feels heavy, which can be a good or a bad thing. You know, some of the competitors feel a little bit more light and playful, while this feels more substantial. It feels like a substantial car that, you know, expensive car, I guess. And visibility in here is also pretty good. I mean, the hood has an interesting sightline because there's two power bulges that you have to kind of get used to, but it's a wide and low car. The side mirrors are big. You have all the driver assistance as standard, the automatic emergency braking, the active lane keep assist, which works very well. This model, because it's automatic, has adaptive cruise control with stop and go. The manual transmission does not have the stop and go or the adaptive cruise. Genesis took that away because, like I said, it didn't work with the manual transmission. But this model as well, with the head-up display, you know, all the tech in here. It's a really pleasant car. It's a car that, you know, you'll kind of buy and it'll feel like you spent more money than you actually did once Genesis, you know, releases the final pricing. Now I want to try the launch control one more time, just because we can. We'll turn off all the nannies again. I'll show you guys how easy it is. Everything's turned off. Foot on the brake, left foot on the brake, floor the gas. That was a lot more intense that time. I let the revs build up a little bit higher and dumped it at around 2,500 RPM. And yeah, that feels like a 4.5 second car. So I'm pretty pleased with the acceleration. I mean, could Genesis offer more? I asked Genesis if they would consider offering like a, you know, a V6, a car with more power. If you're, you know, going to go with something like an M3 or M4 Fight or something with, you know, an extra 100 horsepower. They said that it's on the table. They were thinking about it, but they won't confirm anything. So for now, this, you know, twin turbo V6 with 4.5 seconds is pretty fast. It's got the handling to back it up. I'll show you guys a quick clip of me at an autocross course, a small one over at Motorsports Club. So earlier today, I drove the manual transmission at this little autocross test track, or its little go-kart track. Now I've switched to the manual, or I mean, now I've switched to the automatic V6. And I'm gonna actually leave the stability control off, take it a little easy, and let's see how it feels out there with the V6. Just keep in mind this has an extra 100 horsepower, so I don't wanna crash this car. I'm gonna take it easy at first. Ooh, definitely you feel that extra power for sure. Hard on the brakes. This also has the Brembo brakes. Okay, I'm going to take it a little easy there. I just wanted to see how drift happy it is. It's pretty tail happy, and you definitely feel the extra power in this one. Yeah, this thing likes to step out. Just like the Stinger, this thing is one tail happy car. This thing really is a riot. It's a shame the Japanese can't build anything like this yet. Cool down lap. I'm usually not this quiet, but when you're trying to drive a car that you haven't driven on a track yet or in an autocross course, you don't want to crash it. So I'm trying to focus on my driving. Again, I am not a race car driver, but I will say the 4-cylinder turbo was a little bit less tail happy, of course, because it has less power. This definitely has the power to step the back end out, which is nice, but on this teeny tiny track where you don't want to crash the Genesis car that's not yours, I'm gonna take it a little more easy. But this car, you definitely feel that it weighs a little bit nose heavy compared to the 4-cylinder turbo. But gosh, it's still a lot of fun. You gotta love that extra power from the V6. So driving the G70 3.3T on that little autocross course was fun, and honestly I wish I could have spoken more, but I found that it had way too much power for that little tiny course, and I was trying to keep the car from not ending up in the wall, so apologize if I didn't talk as much. But what I found was the V6 has too much power for that environment, but it has just the right amount of power out here in the real world. I mean, with that extra 100 horsepower, it has that extra torque that I was looking for that you really kind of expect in this segment. It's amazing how fast cars have become. I mean, there was a time where, 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, 300 horsepower was enough in this segment, and now we've got cars like a Toyota Camry that have 300 horsepower. So it's pretty crazy, the world we live in, but really the overall package of the G70, this sport, automatic 3.3T with all-wheel drive, it's just like a really impressive balance of luxury, comfort, speed, and even though the Genesis brand doesn't have the credibility of the Japanese or of the German competitors, I will argue that it offers basically the same value as the Japanese competitors, but at a level that makes you feel like you paid extra, kind of similar to the Germans. I mean, you have the twin-turbo V6, you have a great responsive transmission, good visibility, comfortable seats, high-quality interior. So yeah, if you guys are in the market for a compact sports sedan that delivers on all those aspects, this one should be at the top of your list. Really, where it kind of falls short is the gas mileage. Now, I can't comment too much on the gas mileage now because I'm on this press drive. These cars are being flogged. But at 18.25 for this one that I'm driving, this car is definitely a lot more thirsty than a lot of its main competitors. So although most G70 owners will probably never take their car to the track, it's just rather impressive to know that the Genesis team had that in mind when they actually designed this car. They wanted it to be a truly capable luxury sports sedan that had all the usual attributes that we like about this segment of vehicle. It's still comfortable, it's still luxurious, it's still good looking, it's still pretty practical, yet they still managed to deliver a vehicle that can go on track, which is something that some of its competitors just aren't able to offer. As you guys saw from the test drive, that 3.3 liter twin turbo V6 is a rather impressive engine, moving this car from 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. It's got the handling dynamics that you typically associate with a German car. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. A German engineer and designer designed this thing, and really it makes the G70 truly a force to be reckoned with in this segment. A lot of the Japanese sports sedans just aren't up to par in this particular class. The Q50 is just as quick, however the chassis can't handle it. The Lexus needs more power. The Acura is a front-wheel drive platform that has a transmission that just needs work. So if you guys are in the market for a luxury sports sedan and you need something that delivers German levels of luxury, of design, of feel and handling, but at a more Japanese-friendly price, you should definitely put the G70 at the top of your list. So if you're looking to actually purchase one, what's it going to cost to get this? Well, Genesis didn't have final pricing yet available on this car as of the filming. However, it's going to start at around $35,000, at least that's what they tell us. That makes it a little bit more expensive than the Kia Stinger, about $3,000 more expensive, which I actually expected. This car is a luxury brand as opposed to Kia, which is technically not. Now, this one is a little bit more tricky in terms of the pricing. Genesis says it's going to be around $50,000. That's where they basically gave us a range. I'd say this one, because it's all-wheel drive, $51,000, which would make it a really great deal in this segment. Keep in mind, if you guys wanted something like a Q50 that had this much power with all-wheel drive, that's going to easily run you $60,000. So, with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2019 Genesis G70 twin-turbo V6 with all-wheel drive. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. With more power, if you're going to go with something like an M3 or M4 fight or something with an extra 100 horsepower, they said that. Oh my God, there was a cop right there. That's happened to me several times where I was like, oh, I'm gonna just floor it earlier, and then all of a sudden, fuck, there's a cop. Your heart 400 feet. Your heart stopped when you saw that cop. You were like, I saw him, but I know you had slowed down. I was whatever. I'm not the one getting a ticket. I know. My heart stopped.